And welcome back. So we're welcoming to the Dawn Show, to the conversation, Neil Hartman, who's also a former Byberry Hospital attendant, along with Warren, who we've already been talking to. So do the two of you keep in touch over the years, since the 40s? You've kept in touch, and this formed a bond, I imagine, what you endured at Byberry.
We met at Byberry, and then I got a job in Morristown Friends School, and Warren's first wife was from Morristown. So that's how we got back together.
Okay. And so when
we live in the same community right now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you tell people the story, what do you take from it the most after all these years, from your experience? And I'll start with you, Neil. What you take from what you learned there and what you witnessed. It was horrific.
Well, of course, I volunteered to go to Byberry because I thought it was a good opportunity to learn about mental illness. I knew nothing about mental illness. And I was assigned to a E building, which was a good patients. And I found out a lot about, I would see a patient, I'd wonder why on earth he was there, because he acted very normal. But then I'd come back someday and he'd be higher than a kite, so I understood why he was there. That half the time they were normal, but the other half they were high. I graduated, I guess, to the B building, which was the violent ward, and that was entirely different. And I was in the room where the patients were handcuffed to the bed.
And now John, who we met, the author, wrote about children. There was a 12-year-old girl who died there. There were children who were restrained and might choke to death or that sort of thing. So
of course, the women were on the other side of the road. We had nothing to do with it.
We had no connection.
Right. So they separated them
But
out.
there was a young boy who happened to be a sailor and came from England and got mentally ill and was assigned to Byberry. And the buildings were built on bricks, and some of the bricks stood out, so he climbed up on the outside and jumped down and committed suicide.
Ugh. A lot of people, especially young people, might take themselves back and say, you were young men, and to endure this, and yet it seems like it made you stronger as human beings.
Well, stronger, I don't know. When I went there, I was among the first 16 people who went there, and I worked in the infirmary. I learned how to pack bodies when people died and had to pack them and all that's involved there. But then I went to the incontinent ward, 400 patients who had no control over their bodily functions, no chairs, no benches to sit on. They just lay in their own mess all day long on a concrete floor. And it's absolutely impossible to imagine that kind of an experience, the degradation of human beings living and acting, thinking like that. It's an experience that once in a lifetime experience, and I'm very glad I went there. I went there primarily because while I started in North Carolina fighting forest fires, I thought it was more important for the human need to go there. That's why I volunteered, to take the place of all the men who had been drafted or have gone elsewhere during the war. And the need was so great when you think that in these wards, 12 to 15 people would be taking care of 400 incontinent or disturbed patients. And the COs, as we were there, very few of us ended up 150 before the war was over. But the idea of being in the ward 2 people or 3 people during the day versus peacetime, 12 to 15.
Well,
so it was just a matter of custodial care.
Well, but what's interesting, though, I think, is that from a journalism background, is that there were COs like yourselves, one in particular, who was so disturbed by what he saw, he snuck in a camera and took photos. Citizen journalism. This is before everybody had a smartphone and could snap photos. This was before Twitter and emails and all of this. And so in your own ways, it was citizen journalism, that you were speaking out and doing what you could do to say this is wrong and we need to stop it. And from my standpoint, I think that's important to say, you know, if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's a beautiful message. Listen, our conversation is going to continue. Hold that thought, Warren. We'll be right back here on The Dawn Show. And welcome back to The Dawn Show. We're talking about Byberry of Philadelphia State Hospital. And normally I take phone calls because we're live, but we have so much to talk about. But one of you called and asked, where exactly is Byberry? It's shut down now. It was shut down thanks to the citizen journalism and investigations that were prompted by that. But it's off the boulevard, off the Roosevelt Boulevard, basically Southampton, Byberry, Roosevelt Boulevard in Northeast Philadelphia. So that's where it is. And back with Warren and Neil, who were attendants there, conscientious objectors who ended up having a life-changing experience. You know, I should ask though, they use it as sometimes as a haunted house. You know, they let people go through there. But have you been back in recent years just to see the grounds? It's now dilapidated and so on. But
I was there about 3 or 4 years ago, and there was nothing there.
right.
The male side of the hospital is completely grown up as an industrial park. The female side, the buildings were still there when I was there. I understand that they've been taken down since. So
When you even drive past, or when you were there a few years back, does it give you a chill? Do you think about it? Does it, you know, anything like that?
no, it didn't me. Have you been back, Neil?
Yeah, I was back a long time ago. The buildings are still up, but grass was growing all around. You couldn't get in the building, and
I guess
there were tires piled up there and trash.
I guess what I want to ask both of you is, what if you were to tell, you know, a grandchild, a young child, what happened there, or what you took from it, why it's an important lesson to all of us in the country, in the Philadelphia region. I'll start with you, Neil. What would you want a child to know about, in simple terms, what we can learn from what happened at Byberry?
Well, that your mind can go from you, but you might be, I found out, especially in the E building, the patients are very normal about 75% of the time, but it's that 25% that bothers you.
Yeah, but you had the compassion to see that. Warren, how about for you? I mean, if you were, again, like I have a 9-year-old son, if you were to explain to a 9-year-old what we should learn from what happened there.
What did I learn? Well, you learn patience, I guess, to dealing with these people who are distraught and out of their minds, some of them, and learning to, with that patience, caring for them with a sensitivity, or trying to develop a sensitivity to their needs.
Right.
I'd like to make a statement. I think that COs and the overall general idea is that we were all socially conscious of inequities and deprivation and that sort of thing in the world. We went into various fields, teaching. Neil was a teacher, I was a salesman, went into all kinds of fields. But that sensitivity and awareness of the needs in the world.
Yeah.
I don't mean to brag when I say that.
No,
Other people are too.
Look, I think it's a beautiful story, and I thank you for. We have to have you on again and share some of your diaries that you took, because we're running out of time. But I think it's important to serve our country as volunteers in many ways. But you're obviously peace-loving gentlemen, and I thank you, and I thank the author John Webster for sharing his book as well. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Dawn Show, 11 a.m.